And greetings and welcome back to another GatherVerse Summit 2025 Day 3 Fireside discussion. Certainly an incredible roundtable of expressions that we just heard. What a great way to kick off Day 3, and what a way to continue even forward with our next guest that we have here at GatherVerse. And for those that are here with us at GatherVerse.live, we're so happy and rather joyous to see all of you. And then at our different streaming broadcast platforms, gathering with us quite literally from around the world, from everything that we can see and what we can't see. And I want to introduce a very special guest that we have with us today. And Michael, before we roll into this, I think it's heartfelt to say thank you for your service and the work that you have done and the commitment that you've given to country. I'd be remiss in not expressing that. It's heartfelt. And we do have a decorated soldier here with us that's a recipient of the Purple Heart, and want to make sure that we acknowledge that. That's important, and for a number of reasons. And so, Michael, we want to say thank you for your arrival. And will you briefly introduce who you are and what inspired you to join us today, sir?
Man, Chris, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be here with you and everyone that's here, part of your conference here with you, man. You know, being in the space that I'm in and being in the leadership space, I think that it's such an important time for us to have this conversation when it comes to leadership, resilience, and what is actually taking place when it comes to technology in these days, man. So I just thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Michael, we know you're running at 150 miles per hour, and our firesides tend to go a little bit quicker. So we'll onboard and kind of get moving and get things going. We talk about adversity. We talk about resilience. We talk about the need for persistence and to be able to move forward, especially in the guise of business today where there are more challenges than we've ever known contemporary to our time. What does that look like, and why have you decided to champion and rear up the necessary climb up that hill?
Yeah, I think technology disruption isn't a roadblock. I think it's a recollaboration in these times. I think in every era, there's a transformation for leaders and individuals too as well. And you're going to have two choices, and you're either going to resist or you're going to reinvent yourself. And I think when you do that, those who thrive in these times, they get to master resilience. They get that chance to show their adaptability and also their innovation too as well.
When you talk about mastering resiliency, can you lean in further on that with us?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to resiliency, you know, a lot of times we think about how could we actually push through things and get past some things that we're facing with when it comes to challenges and things like that. And we just have to develop something that I call the break the bottle concept or break the bottle mindset. And a lot of times we bottle a whole bunch of things in, but in the face of challenges, how can we be much more resilient? And I think there's 3 Ds that I look at, and I look at like, how can you disrupt things, right? When it comes to being resilient. And I say, let's challenge some of those limiting beliefs. Let's challenge some of the things that are tied to biases. Let's challenge some of the ways that we're thinking of the old way of thinking. And let's look at some of the ways that we can start disrupting things and become a catalyst when it comes to growth. And when it comes to resilience also, you know, how could we embrace some of these challenges, right, and get on the path of discovery? So how could we start seeking knowledge? How could we start seeking feedback? How could we start looking at things from a different perspective? In a tech-driven world, curiosity is always going to fuel reinvention. And the last part to that is like drive. So how could we start making some decisive action, right, where we could start looking into some of these things? I think this is one of the greatest antidote when it comes to uncertainty, when it comes to movement too as well.
It's fascinating that you talk about uncertainty, and we talk about this as the most disruptive time in the history that we've ever known, technology-wise. That good technology is superseded by great technology, and great technology is even superseded by even better technology. This is what we commonly refer to as disrupt. And the thing is to the reality of so many technologists that join us and that are here with us today at GatherVerse and certainly all week. When we think about it, at this time, we've disrupted ourselves in a major way that, you know, we could say that Uber disrupted taxis, but now Uber's being disrupted by Uber itself when it comes to autonomous systems and agents and disrupting people. And I say that lightly, but I say that with also at the same time of seriousness, Michael. We talk about resiliency and finding ourselves at a time where a lot of people are uncertain because we're not just competing with humans, we're also competing now with machines intellectually and very soon, if you will, anatomically when it comes to the labor. But the intelligent, if you will, sector is definitely being challenged at this present time. When it comes to agentics and other capable models that are out there, what do you say to those that are being disrupted, those that are having to take that next step, a future step they've never known here in the frontier of intelligence? What does that look like from your lens, and what are you seeing out there, Michael?
Yeah, from my lens, I think leaders must become much more resilient when it comes to the architect. So when I talk about that is creating like an environment that fosters psychological safety, adaptability, and just some forward thinking. And when I think about that as well, what I would share with the audience too as well, let's lead with a vision and not from a fear standpoint. So like, let's start clearly communicating the why behind what we're doing. Where behind some of these changes, I think fear could paralyze us in regards to moving forward. And I think with a vision thinking, that helps empowers the people that are following us based off what we have going on. The second thing I would say is that let's start fostering a culture where learning is now encouraged. So now we can encourage innovation. We can encourage innovation and experiment, and then put us in a space where knowledge sharing. I work with clients oftentimes where they are often operating in silos, and we had to start looking at different things where we're taking everything into consideration more so than from one person's standpoint. The next thing I would say is let's start emphasize some of these psychological things that's tied to resilience. So let's teach our teams how to manage stress and uncertainty, but also be proactive about that, not rather just wait and then we're being reactive to things. And then I love the part when we're working with organizations, we're working with companies, especially when we're working with some of our government clients as well too, where we could start collaborating and celebrate some of these small wins. Sometimes we get so down in the weeds where we don't actually get a chance to celebrate some of the things that we're doing and win with our team. So I think progress builds momentum, and I think those momentums help fuel some of the confidence that's tied to that too as well. Another thing I would close out with is saying that let's empower some of the decision making. So like give people ownership with their work. Autonomy breeds resilience, and I think that could help organizations, help companies, and help us, especially in this technology space.
It's very fascinating that you talk about that regarding autonomy, whether that's bifurcated expression to founders and entrepreneurs that are out there, and also at the same time, those that are working entire whole organizations that may be one of the only few left remaining of their teams, public and private sector. We're seeing a lot of things happen right here in the United States, and it is what it is. Let's kind of look into that for a second, Michael. How do we keep ourselves ahead of the machine successfully? How do we not be intimidated and be stifled by paralysis, but rather be able to champion the opportunity to not only compete with machines, but to use them for what they are as tools to be able to take that to the next level in exercising agency? And where do we tap into that strength from within?
Man, I love that question, man. That's fascinating. In this day and time, man, if you're not up to speed with what is taking place, you're going to be left behind. So to stay ahead, I think professionals need to embrace what I call the 5 C's when we're looking at future-proofing success. So number one that I do myself, and I share this with my teammates, my clients, is continuous learning. So we got to stay ahead of the curve through education and professional development. Following that is, how could we start collaborating? So collaboration is let's build strong networks, just like in this training here, this conference here, the summit here that we have going on. Let's start collaborating with everyone here that's in this verse that we're in, right? That is watching. Let's start collaborating. So build strong networks and leverage diverse perspective. The third thing is critical thinking. And when it comes to critical thinking, we got to start developing the ability to start analyzing and anticipate trends. So you just mentioned it. We're seeing a whole bunch of things that's already coming. We could actually look at data and we could actually see what is coming next. We just looked at Uber. Uber is getting taken over, right? You can see what's going on in the government with some of these other technology space. We're just in California, and we're just discovering so many different things here over the past 2 weeks in regards to what's coming down the space in technology. Following that is creativity. I always love where we give people autonomy to like be creative and share things. Let's break things. In the military, we always talked about ask questions later. Let's do something now and let's ask questions later. So when it comes to creativity, let's start innovating solutions rather than reactive problems. And the last thing is take calculated risks, right? Step outside of your comfort zone. Oftentimes we're too scared to step out of our comfort zone. So let's have some courage to do so. I think the future belongs to those who are not just prepared for change, but for those who are willing to drive it too as well.
What's a champion mindset? I have to ask. I'm inspired by your 5 C's. I have to ask. I can't help but and we have, some 5 minutes here. What is that champion mindset? What is that, Michael?
Man, that champion mindset is having that grit, that growth mindset, that will, that determination, not willing to lose. When I first got to Iraq, one of the first signs that I saw was complacency kills, and complacency would keep you stagnant. And I say that when you have that championship mindset, you're always innovative, you're always learning, you're always seeking to champion something and be actually better than what you are current day, the next day, and moving forward. So just having that growth mindset, just willing to conquer. And I think I always talk about resilience, but let's not let anything occur to us in our past defeat us, more so looking at it as learning lessons and things of that magnitude.
Yeah, I really appreciate the need of what you're talking about, that if you're not audience, if we're not up to date, and not only being up to date, but staying up to date, but really staying ahead, we'll find ourselves in a situation where we'll be making the attempt to lead from behind. And Michael, I look at it that you could take a collegiate athlete, and she or he will make it to the professional sector, the professional level, but they have to start all over again. Is because they're coming into an arena filled with professionals, and they have to come up to what you and I know called game speed, don't they? And so
Exactly.
They have to catch up to game speed. They have to restart over. I feel like with this advent launch of artificial intelligence, and as we know it today, that's been pushed on all of us, even of all of us that are technologically proficient and in our working and what we do and our doings, we've all had to take a step back so that we could take a giant leap forward with game speed. What does it mean to stay ahead of the coming wave? Certainly, because what we see today will be dramatically different this time next year.
I think when it comes to staying ahead, it ties down to being very persistent, especially when the rapid changes in the industry. So how can you stay ahead? 3 things: adaptability. If you're going to be in the space that we're in now, you got to be able to face drastic industry shifts, right? From the military to entrepreneurship. For myself as an IT project manager and leadership consulting, I've always been in situations where things were discomforting for me, but I had to start having a growth mindset for those opportunities that presented themselves. The next thing is learning agility. And what I mean by that is technology is always evolving rapidly, right? So as leaders, how could we step into this space and challenge ourselves? And for myself, I make it a habit. I make it a habit every single day to continuously stay with educating myself, mentorships, and just through strategic networking through what I'm doing in my business. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the purpose alignment. And we'll find ourselves doing things that we should not be doing. So make sure that you're aligning yourself with where you're supposed to be and your organization, your company, and tying those things to your purpose. And I think staying committed means connecting to every single challenge. And it's a bigger why. So what is the purpose of what you're doing? Is there meaning behind it? And when you tie your why and tie that mission, it empowers people that you're leading yourself to as well, to be resilient and adaptable. When I think about it again, man, as I close out, is like speed is of change, right? It's not going to slow down for you. So you have to be able to adapt whenever it comes to those changes and the forces that's going to come at you, especially when you want to accelerate.
Michael, we have to lead towards our closing session as quick as it comes, as quick as it goes. I'd be remiss to not ask, and I'm inspired to ask you, these things that you express, it takes years sometimes for people to experience this, to gather the words that are coming from the heart. I have to ask, you've lived a life of service. You do it even now. You talked about mentorship and guidance. And I know that when you express that there have been those through your life that have been guides and, if you will, a North Star to you in your life and you and your family, if you will. What inspired you to take this path of service?
Wow, man, I love that question. I'm going to go deep with you on this, man, and take you back of what inspired my path to service. I'm a kid that was born in Jamaica, been through tremendous poverty, you name it. Been homeless, hurricanes took our family houses away, came to America, and you name all of the things that a kid could go through when you don't speak American English, the bullying, the fighting, and all of these different things that are challenging you. Then I had a chance to join the Boy Scouts, and I had a trauma incident that actually rocked my world. I then played high school football, tore ACL, MCL, had the opportunity to go to University of Wisconsin. Scholarship got taken away. I joined the military. 9/11 hits. Get told that I'm going to Iraq to go fight a war. I go to Iraq. I get blown up by a car bomb. And at the same time, I lost my best friend. I had to put him in a body bag. And my transition out of the military was not the greatest. So you name it. I've witnessed people suicides. I've witnessed so many other things, brought me to my own fate of trying to take my own life and trying to commit suicide. And that's when I was on the path of changing my life and trying to help people, because I knew this is not how my life was going to end. And I wanted to start empowering people and help change people's lives. And ever since I've been on that path of personal growth, personal development, and being someone that was a leader before and knowing what it takes, I had to change my mindset. I had to change things that I was doing. And once I got on that path, man, and knowing that I was helping so many people on that path, I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. So that's when I decided to write my own book. That's when I decided to create the Adversity Academy. That's when I decided to create programs and curriculums to help businesses and help companies get past challenges that they're facing, to take them past just one step at a time. We don't have to even get to the end goal immediately, but just one step at a time. But that's what has empowered me in regards to what fuels me every single day and get up every single day with that championship mindset, with that mindset of just trying to conquer every single day, and that mindset of just trying to help people, man. And that's what kind of fuels that for me too as well.
Well, I'm a spiritual man, and may you be guided by the blessing of the Heavenly Father. I want to say thank you for your service, for your willingness, your vulnerability, your transparency to share with the GatherVerse community. With us, it never begins with technology. Sorry, a little choked up, man. It never begins with technology. It begins with the heart. And so you have certainly brought that today and given us time that you'll never get back. And we just want to say thank you. And we look forward to seeing your journey. Audience, go follow Michael. Go support this man and what he's doing in his endeavor and mission. Find a way to collaborate, and let's build together. And I think Michael will agree. Let's build strong.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Our gather was well.